Welcome to the Metal Voice, a special edition. Today we're going to be talking about the new Metallica album. This is going to be a pre-review. We're going to speculate. And with me today to help me speculate about the new Metallica album is the one, the only chief editor of Metal Wani, Mr. Vitek. What's going on, brother?
Excellent, Jimmy. How about you?
Great, great. All right, so this is how it's going to go down, Vitek. I'm going to throw some questions at you, and together we could sort of shape and assume and speculate and review what this new album just might sound like, what direction it might go in. All right, This is Metallica's album number 10. In 2014, the band released a song called Lord of Summer. Lars said to Rolling Stone, "This is fairly representative of where our creative headspace is right now." So what'd you think of the song Lord of Summer?
Lord of Summer, when it came out, I think there was a lot of hype with respect to that. I think we got the live version, then we got the studio version. But when I heard it, it's definitely not back to the roots, but it's something which leans more towards the heavy metal sound of Metallica. No, I don't want to say thrash because it's not. It's not thrash metal to me. It's not thrash metal to me how Metallica used to be back in the day. But it's somehow in the same veins as Death Magnetic was in terms of the sound. But with just one song, I don't know. I mean, I just feel that it could possibly maybe the weakest song on the album, or maybe it will be the perfect song on the album. Nobody knows. But I mean, with just one song, it's difficult to judge what they're going to do this time.
For myself, I thought it was an okay track. It wasn't, something off Kill 'Em All or Ride the Lightning, but it was a decent track, probably better than Death Magnetic. All right, next. The album is slated to be released October 14th, so says Lars in Bid Magazine. They're mixing the album as we speak, and he says it definitely sounds like Metallica. It's probably a little less frenetic than the last record. The last one was produced by Rick Rubin. Now this one is produced by Greg Thielmann.
Yeah.
Now let me just give you some productions that he's done or engineered. Lulu, Slayer Repentless, The Great Chapter by Slipknot, Slayer World Painted Blood. So what are your thoughts on having Greg Thielmann as the producer?
As the producer, I mean, looking at how the production of the previous Slayer album, Repentless, was, I felt he was able to hold the guitar tone pretty well. I mean, I love the tone on Repentless. I'm not talking about the songwriting, but I'm talking about the tone which the guitars and the bass are making, and also the drums which he had engineered. So, I mean, if I keep that in mind, how Repentless sounded, I feel it could possibly be a pretty good album in terms of the production. But if you look at Lord of Summer final version, the studio version that was released, it was more raw, it was organic. So again, we are thrown into those two options here. Is the Lord of Summer track the final one that's going to appear on the album, or was it just probably the rough demo or the rough sketch of it? But if you talk about the Greg sound and looking at how the recent Repentless album was, I'm all up for it. I'm sure the production would be good, if not the best.
As for myself, I don't know, man. I didn't dig World Painted Blood by Slayer. I didn't like the production. It was a little too raw for me. I didn't dig the production on the last Slayer album, even though I dug the songs. And, he's also done Red Hot Chili Peppers, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like that sound. I don't know. There's something about the production of what Greg Thielmann does that I don't dig. I like Lord of Summer, but I don't know. So far for me, it's not trending in the right direction. Now, Robert, the bassist of Metallica, said, "I had a blast doing backup vocals last week." This is in just not too long ago. "It was probably the most fun I've had during this album cycle. It was just super fun blasting out those choruses." So we have Lord of Summer, that sort of vibe. We have the production of, let's say, Slayer's last album, and we have a lot of choruses. So I mean, usually Metallica doesn't have a lot of back vocals. What do you think about that?
I mean, that again depends on what kind of direction they're taking. Okay, if you go back to Death Magnetic, or if you go back to even Saint Anger, I think the background vocals slowly started, slightly increasing. I mean, there's a lot of I won't say a lot. There's a slightly good amount of background, vocals on the Death Magnetic tracks, as I've heard many, interviews with James telling that. But on this album, I feel they're kind of doing a little more. I don't know. I mean, Metallica are not known for big, heavy, stadium-sized choruses where you have, both of them, in sync with each other. Background vocals, I don't know. For me, it doesn't make much difference. I'd rather have James, take a lead here instead of listening to what Robert is doing in the background. So it doesn't matter to me, to be honest.
What scares me is Lulu, all right? The disaster that Lulu was.
Right.
Greg Thielmann, I mean, he produced that album. I really didn't dig the songs. I didn't dig the direction. I didn't dig the collaboration. And especially the production. I didn't think it was there. I mean, were you a fan of Lulu? And also, were you a fan of Death Magnetic?
Death Magnetic, yes. I felt it was a pretty good, solid, Metallica album. Because look, I'm not a fan of Load Reload. I loathe them, and Saint Anger is probably a pretty, I don't know, maybe an average album for me. But Death Magnetic was a pretty good album for me in terms of the kind of that back to the roots kind of, not much, but slightly. Metallica did pick up, kind of made the songs a little faster, and there was a lot of pump, adrenaline in that. But with this new album, I feel there may be some songs where they're gonna have those, pop tunes in there. I mean, I don't know, man. Metallica always surprises people, and it's all got to do with Lars and James taking the lead. But if you ask me about that, Lulu sucked. It sucked to the extreme core, and I don't know. I hate when someone calls, or even the band members say that it's one of the most creative albums we have done in a long time. It's shit. I mean, I loathe that album to the core. And even the spoken words on the album were disastrous. I don't know. I mean, Lou Reed, I mean, with all due respect to him, that's it, man. I mean, I was never a fan of his voice. I was never a fan of his whatever he has done in his life. And when I hear, all the four guys playing with him and, making crappy music, it doesn't work for me. That's not Metallica. That's shit. That's like you guys are literally doing stuff which probably you have killed 60 to 70% of your fans, and here you are throwing them into a certain situation where they're not able to figure out what to expect. So let me put it this way. Next Metallica album, it could either be the best since And Justice for All, or it could be the worst among all.
Personally, this is what I think. I think Artillery, Flotsam and Jetsam, Death Angel, Megadeth, and many, many more thrashers are at their peak right now. They are writing the best albums they've ever written. This is the second golden age of thrash right now. We're living it right now. And Metallica, I don't know what's going on. I think maybe it's just they've gone too Hollywood. I don't know what it is, but they've lost it. Just to tell you, Death Magnetic for me was a great album. It was okay. It wasn't too bad. But you know what? I haven't reached for that album since the day I bought it. It just, there's nothing about that album that, it's not a magnet for me. It's whatever the opposite of a magnet is. That's what it is.
It's not memorable for you. I mean, for me also, it's not something which I listen to every now and then. But, here and there sometimes when I hear the songs, okay, that brings back the memory. But it's not something which sticks to your heart. And let me tell you something. If you see the recent the ads they're doing, or I don't know, the sponsorship they're doing with this Italian
Lord,
cloth company, I don't know. I get a feeling either it may turn out to be an album which is again on the same lines as maybe Load Reload or maybe Saint Anger. I'm not sure, because the way they're doing this, the build up till the album release, I don't know what all we're going to see. I mean, I would not be surprised if tomorrow I see Lars in some advertisement for Jockey or
Speedo.
Yeah, I would just not be surprised with that, because these guys do some weird stuff. But if you just try to focus on what they're doing with all these, the stuff they're appearing in, doing these, sponsorships and stuff, I don't know. I mean, I just sense something really commercial, something really which might be the biggest selling album, since Black Album. I don't know. I'm just speculating it because it took 8 years in the making?
Well, okay, so you're saying it's going to be more accessible, more commercial. I'm thinking it's just going to be like no one really cares album. Like, everybody will be excited, everybody will buy it, everybody will say, new Metallica album is out, they'll like it for a bit, then they'll just chuck it away in some corner. And I think you made a lot of great points. That's the problem with thrash. It's really a poor man's sort of genre, right? When you're struggling, that's when the best music comes out. Well, there you have it. We want to know what you think. leave a comment. Tell us what you think the next Metallica album is going to sound like. You think they're going to go off in a commercial direction? Do you think they're going to go in a more thrashy direction? Or is it just going to be, so-so, same old, you know, Lulu, maybe a little Death Magnetic, maybe a little Reload. Tell us what you think. Vitek, thank you for being on the show today. That's Vitek, Metal Wani, metalwani.com, all the way in India, my brother.